Travel back in time with a trip inside the Iowa's News Now vault.
Wilson Foods has again announced that its Cedar Rapids plant is being sold. Maggie is with us live from the plant with a three-part report on the sale and reaction to it. Maggie?
Dave, the sale was officially announced at a news conference this afternoon, though word leaked out earlier in the day. This plant will be called Cedar Rapids Meat if the sales go through. And Farm Director Chuck Shaleen is here now to tell us about the sale and the prospective owner. Chuck?
Maggie, the financial deal is very similar to the one that recently fell through with Adam Weinreb. The price tag for the plant remains at $16 million, much of it financed by Wilson Foods. But that is where the similarities between this sale and the one that was canceled on April 20th end.
I'm convinced that if we're open and candid and honest with each other, we'll have a good working relationship.
That was the key theme of this news conference, openness and cooperation, something that Keith Barnes feels will be critical to the future of the Cedar Rapids plant. This will be the second Wilson facility purchased by Barnes. In March, he bought Wilson's Albert Lea, Minnesota pork processing plant, a sale that also came after a deal with Adam Weinreb was canceled. Weinreb was unwilling to discuss his bankruptcy conviction in Europe. Barnes says everything in this deal will be out in the open.
I hope that as we go down the road, we have more work to do yet with Wilson Foods, that we'll be able to keep you posted on the future developments as to the direction of the company, what's going to be happening, because I know there's going to be a lot of unanswered questions.
For now, Barnes says the two plants will be run independently, although the same label will be used, and some pork will be sold to Wilson Foods. Barnes says plant manager Forrest Michaelby and the rest of the workforce at the Cedar Rapids plant will remain in place.
Our intent is no different than it was in Albert Lea. It's to utilize the people who are there. And that will be our first priority.
And that also means there will be no changes in the way this plant buys hogs in the future. The target date for the sale completion, Maggie, is early June, about 1 month from now. But between now and then, there is a lot of work to be done, and the sale must also be approved by Wilson Foods' Unsecured Creditors Committee.
Now, why is that? With the bankruptcy over, why do the unsecured creditors have to?
When Wilson's bankruptcy reorganization plan was approved in March, there was an agreement reached calling for the committee's approval if this plant was sold in the future, something spurred by all the problems surrounding that Weinreb deal. I might add, though, that no one really anticipates much problem because Mr. Barnes has purchased the Wilson plant in Albert Lea without any problems there, so everyone anticipates pretty smooth sailing.
Okay, thanks a lot, Chuck. Barnes' purchase of the plant may open new avenues for collective bargaining for Wilson Foods union employees. Jim Coleman, the president of the Cedar Rapids United Food and Commercial Workers Local, says he would like to be able to conduct joint contract negotiations with Albert Lea. The current contracts for employees in Albert Lea and Cedar Rapids expire on September 1st of next year. He believes joint negotiations would give the unions more bargaining power. Coleman's remarks about the proposed sale had an optimistic tone this afternoon. He says he and the people he represents have much better feelings about Keith Barnes than they did about Adam Weinreb.
Involved in the community in Albert Lea, in part with United Way, and also with his background being with Land O'Lakes, executive there, so he does seem reputable.
Coleman says the relationship between Barnes and the employees may be better than the relationship with Wilson Foods. Some of the employees I talked to today are hoping the same thing.
Who really knows? I mean, we don't know what's behind everything. I mean, but if it can save the job for the younger kids, I'm for it.
Albert Lea seems to be going good, so we have no reason to think that this won't.
But I think, you know, they'll probably do a good thing. I hope he does better than what we've been doing.
Better two plants together, I'd say, anyway.
Keith Barnes' Corn Belt Meats has been in operation in Albert Lea now for several months, and Colleen Riley is just back from a visit to Albert Lea where she spoke with the local union president about Barnes and his company. What did you find out, Colleen?
Well, Maggie, I found an air of optimism in Albert Lea, Minnesota also. Barnes says that Barnes has already made improvements at the plants. In fact, we saw a remodeling project already underway. And Derby Olson, the union president, said Barnes seems determined to make a go of it at the Albert Lea plant. He also said that workers seem more secure about their jobs. Although the workers are working under a verbal agreement and not a negotiated contract, they would like to see a negotiated contract very soon. And finally, and probably most importantly, Barnes is a local boy up in Albert Lea, and they feel much more comfortable with him as the head of their plant than they would have with West German businessman Adam Weinreb.
Colleen, was anybody in Albert Lea surprised by today's announcement?
Well, yes, the union president said he was very surprised and, in fact, a little bit concerned that maybe Barnes was stretching his resources a bit thin. But then he said he feels that with Barnes' reputation, he knows that Barnes is probably very well backed and has a lot of capital behind him, or he wouldn't go into this Cedar Rapids venture.
Okay, Colleen, thanks for that report. And now we'll go back to Dave Shea in the studio. Dave?